It's a curious thing, some of the most emotionally perceptive, socially aware people you'll ever come across didn't build those abilities through formal learning, self help routines, or years of intentional inner work. They developed them because life quietly demanded it from them. At some stage in their lives, the environment required them to become highly observant, emotionally alert, and mentally prepared. Their nervous system adapted not out of preference, but out of necessity. They learned to read subtle cues, anticipate reactions, and stay mentally ahead of situations simply to maintain a sense of safety. Psychologists have begun referring to this phenomenon as traumatic intelligence. And if this is the first time you're hearing that term, it highlights exactly why this idea is worth understanding more deeply. The core principle behind it is this: trauma doesn't only leave emotional wounds, it can also sharpen the mind in very specific ways. Research in developmental psychology suggests that individuals who grow up in emotionally unpredictable, high stress, or complex environments often develop a heightened sensitivity to human behavior. Their brains adapt early, particularly regions like the amygdala, which processes emotional signals, and the prefrontal cortex, which handles decision making and regulation. These areas become finely tuned to detect even the smallest shifts in mood, tone, or body language. What emerges from this is a kind of intelligence that isn't always visible on the surface, but operates deeply beneath it. It shows up not through obvious achievements, but through perception, awareness, and response. The first sign of this intelligence is your ability to read a room almost instantly. The moment you enter a space, something within you becomes alert, not in a loud or anxious way, but in a quiet, watchful manner. You notice the subtle tension between people, the slight hesitation in someone's voice, or the micro expressions that pass across faces in a fraction of a second. This isn't something mystical or supernatural, it's pattern recognition developed over time. Your brain learned early that paying attention to these signals mattered, so it became exceptionally skilled at it. The second sign is a deep attunement to other people's emotions. You often sense when someone is struggling, even if they insist they're fine. You can feel shifts in emotional energy before they are openly expressed. Psychologically, this is often referred to as hyper-empathy. It tends to develop in individuals who, during childhood, had to stay closely aware of caregivers or family members' emotional states. Over time, this constant monitoring becomes automatic. You don't just understand emotions, you feel them, almost as if they're your own. The third sign is your ability to remain calm and strategic under pressure. When situations become chaotic or overwhelming, you don't necessarily panic. Instead, something in you becomes focused, composed, and solution oriented. This is linked to what researchers sometimes describe as stress adaptation or stress inoculation. If you were frequently exposed to high pressure situations early in life, your brain learned how to function effectively within them. While others may feel overwhelmed by chaos, you instinctively begin organizing it, breaking it down, and finding a way through it. The fourth sign is a tendency toward deep psychological thinking. You don't just observe behavior, you analyze it. You reflect on conversations long after they've ended, trying to understand underlying motives, emotions, or patterns. You question why people act the way they do and often look for meaning where others don't. This depth didn't develop randomly. It was shaped by a need to understand unpredictable behavior in your environment. Over time, you became highly skilled at anticipating how people might respond in different situations. The fifth sign is an important realization. The traits you carry, your sensitivity, your awareness, your analytical thinking, are not weaknesses disguised as strengths. They are genuine adaptations. They reflect the brain's remarkable ability to adjust and evolve based on experience. What others might label as overthinking or being too sensitive is actually your mind processing information at a deeper level, constantly working to interpret and navigate the world accurately. The sixth sign is a strong sense of self-reliance. You tend not to depend heavily on others to solve your problems. Instead, you quietly figure things out on your own. This independence often develops when early environments were inconsistent in providing support. Your brain learned that relying on others wasn't always safe or effective, so it built internal resourcefulness instead. As a result, you carry a kind of quiet strength, one that doesn't seek validation or rescue, but instead focuses on capability and action. The seventh sign is emotional intensity. You experience feelings more deeply than many people around you. Music can move you profoundly. Acts of kindness can stay with you for a long time. Injustice can affect you on a visceral level. This happens because your emotional processing system has been sensitized through repeated activation over time. It allows you to experience life in a vivid, meaningful way, but it can also make you more vulnerable to emotional exhaustion if not managed carefully. The eighth sign is your relationship with trust. You don't trust easily, and that's not because you're negative, it's because your mind has learned to be careful. Psychologists sometimes call this adaptive skepticism. You've developed filters that help you assess whether someone is genuinely safe or reliable. While this can make it harder to form connections quickly, it also means that the relationships you do build are often deep, genuine, and resilient. When you trust someone, it's not casual, it's meaningful and lasting. Overall, what this concept highlights is something important. The human brain is incredibly adaptive. The abilities you carry didn't appear by chance, they were shaped by your experiences. What may look like heightened sensitivity or over awareness from the outside is, in reality, a finely tuned system that learned how to survive, understand, and respond to complex environments. This isn't about glorifying trauma. It's about recognizing that in many cases, people don't just endure difficult experiences, they adapt to them in ways that create depth, awareness, and capability that others may never fully understand.